Okay, good morning, everybody. It's 9 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Before I introduce our guest this morning, I'd like to go over just a few webinar housekeeping procedures. Firstly, we are recording this session, so if you ever need to refer back to it or share with some of your colleagues who are not able to join this morning, it will be available on our YouTube channel later this week. If you're not actively asking a question or a part of the conversation, please turn your microphone on mute so there isn't any background noise. There's a button on your screen I'd like you all to avoid hitting. It's a rectangle with an up arrow. That's your share screen button. Please do not click that, as that will interrupt the discussion. If and when you have questions, you're more than welcome to unmute yourselves and jump in, or you can put the questions into the chat and I will prompt Jason as needed. If there are any technical issues, please put those into the chat and I'll do my best to help you through those. Just be aware that most of the time those issues stem from your own Wi-Fi connections. And if anyone has dialed in today via telephone, please send me an email at mfrey@pjhq.com so we can get you your PDR credits for this morning. So with that, I'd like to introduce our speaker this morning, Mr. Jason Bale. He's the 2025 PGA of America Teacher and Coach of the Year and the Director of Instruction at Jupiter Hills Club. He has built a reputation on not only as a world-class golf coach, but a trusted advisor, mentor, and leader in the golf community. He's a member of the PGA's Quarter Century Club and brings a rare blend of technical expertise, emotional intelligence, and a deep understanding of what it takes to perform under pressure. He has taught or teaches many tour players, including Lucas Glover and Bud Colley. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Jason. Jason, thanks for joining us.
You got it, Matt. Thanks for having me. And good morning to all of y'all. If it's a slow start, I'm out in Pebble Beach at 6 a.m. here. And Luke, I'm staying with Lucas, so my manservant may bring me some coffee here and now, and then I'll get going a little bit. So, but no, thank you for having me. Great to see some familiar faces on the screen, and I'm delighted to do this. As I've been asked to speak more and more, I've gotten to this point where I think that the best thing to do is throw out some topics. And so some of the topics I'm going to throw out for you guys to mull over, that we can talk about anything under the sun, from, coaching on the PGA Tour to dealing with parents of juniors to negotiating a contract, which I'm going through right now, to, how to deal with vendors, how to deal with relationships, agents, boards of directors, member golf lessons versus, competitive player golf lessons. We can talk technology, what I'm seeing latest and greatest. You can ask questions on any of that. So I just want to open up the floor to that. I think most of you know my story. I came from some parents that were in the teaching and coaching type of atmosphere, with my dad as a high school football and basketball coach for 40 years. And my mom was a dance teacher and built a dance business. And my brothers are tennis pros, and my sister is a director of dance. And so sorry, my wife's trying to call me. Am I back? Am I still on?
Yes, you are.
Okay, great. Hold on one second. My wife's trying to call me. I need to text her and tell her not to call me. So I was used to seeing my parents in a kind of leadership role. Thank you. And so I think I kind of came by that part a little bit naturally. It was always something I wanted to do. I really wanted to coach college basketball from the time I was 8 years old. That was kind of my passion all through high school, and I found golf pretty late, and I decided to put some of those skills into trying to learn how to be the best golf coach I could possibly be. And that's why I think you're having me on here. So I'll open up the floor. Any questions that you guys have, any direction y'all want to go? Let's start.
Jason, how did you how did your relationships with the tour players come about, and how did that progress over the course of your career?
That's a great question because I get asked that a lot. Number one, I think, if you want to coach at that level, it starts with not trying to coach at that level. I think you just try to become the best coach you can be, no matter who's in front of you. And it starts with, you got to make people better. Whether it's a Golf Digest list or a Golf Magazine list or a, Teacher of the Year award or coaching at the highest level, you got to start just by making people better. And that involves anybody and everybody that comes in front of you. So if it's the 25 handicapper at the club or the club champion, if you can make them better, you're doing your job. And I think when you start making people better, then better players find you, and that cycle just starts. And then if I don't live in Jupiter, Florida, I probably don't coach any tour players. If I'm still in South Carolina or in North Carolina, or in Virginia, some places that I've been. I mean, you've got to kind of be where they are as well. You either develop a tour player or one finds you and needs your help. And so those are really the only two ways to kind of get into that world, as far as I'm concerned. I got very fortunate early on. I worked with Darren Clark and he won, and then I worked with Peter Uihlein and he won, and Lucas and I started working together and he won. And it doesn't take long for that to kind of seep through, the ranks, and their friends see who's playing better and better. And picked up Christian Bezuidenhout last year because Lucas and Bud were playing so well, and they noticed that. And if you do your job well and you create a strong foundation, a good relationship with the players, then that also seeps through, kind of the ranks of better players. So that's how I ended up getting to that position. I'm proud of getting there that way, because I didn't actually set out to do it. I just set out to be a really good coach. And when you try to do it that way, I feel like that authenticity shines through.
Go for it, John.
JB, thanks for coming on for us. I appreciate it very much.
You got it, John. Happy to be here with you.
Legend. Hey, could you describe for everybody the way that you have a brand new student in front of you, and how do you conduct it with a new student? Because a lot of us will have folks like that.
Yeah. So in a normal kind of, first of all, I hate 1 hour first golf lessons. Sometimes that's what we have to do, but I really don't like that. But let's just say I get my perfect scenario. My first question when anybody walks in or on the range is what's our goal today? I really want to know what the player's goal is. And we've all been in the situation where they say, well, I want to be more consistent. I'm losing distance and all this kind of stuff. And you really have to drill down with anybody, like what the actual goal of the day would be. And as soon as I can get that out of them, and I ask a lot of probing questions in the beginning, what's consistency mean? And then I try to get them to stop using the word consistency and start using the word adaptability. I want you to become adaptable. You think you want to be consistent, but that's not how this game's played. And that's why you probably, have a great range session and you don't have a great round of golf, because they're two different sports. And so I try to get them to drill down to, I'd like to eliminate a left miss. Okay, great. Let's work towards that. And as soon as I get that, I write it on the whiteboard in the bay, and I point back to it and I say, so that's what we're after. Oh, yes. Okay, that's what we're after. I said, then everything that you and I are going to partner to do today is going to be about eliminating your left miss, or helping you eliminate your left miss. And we may experiment with some things, and I'm going to need your feedback during that process. Are you cool with that? So if I call a play and it doesn't help, we may have to eliminate that play call and move on to something else because it doesn't help you at that point. And I know how much work you've done with Dr. Wu, so I always try to use those external cues and things like that, but trying to get them to actually drill down to what we're trying to accomplish. I know I've made this mistake in the past, that I assumed that everybody that came to work with me wanted to shoot a lower score. Like, I was blown away that everybody's goal wasn't to shoot a lower score. Some people just want to beat their wife. Some people just want to hit it far. There are some people just want to, not embarrass themselves in the company four ball, things like that. So I think that's something I've had to learn over the years, is that not everybody's there to shoot a lower score. And I assume they would be, because when I go get help, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to shoot a lower score. And I'm also going to, I'm a big TPI guy. Anybody that's heard me speak or been around me, I'm big on kind of the body and things like that, and how that works and what a player has in his disposal to use physically. I don't take everybody through a complete TPI screen in an hour golf lesson. I do, however, before I'm going to make some type of, change to anything, that I check the parts of the body that would attribute to that change. I change golf swings for two reasons, and two reasons only. Your ball won't fly the way you want it to fly, or you're hurt or going to get hurt doing what you're doing. I don't really see reasons to change golf swings unless you are affecting those two things.
Thanks, JB.
Yep.
We've got a question from Cheech at Tavistock. Was there anything in particular you changed with Lucas Glover?
It's a cool story. I think, one of my little checkpoints is, like, does your grip and club face match up? All right. And, Lucas is one of the best ball strikers on the planet. I always make the comment, I think his face should be on Mount Flushmore, because he's just that good. Lucas gripped the club a little closed when we first got together. And if you know anything about how his ball flight is, he likes to curve it a little bit more right to left than most people on tour. That's the way he wants, that's the way he sees it. That's the way he plays his best golf. But when the club face was a little shut, he would have to drop it in a little bit more, lean back, kind of get sticky on the right foot to start the ball to the right. And that got him kind of underneath his right arm on the way back. His mass was too far back, and he would hit these little shallow fats. Now, I would have bought every one of those shots. Like, he could have given me all of those, but for somebody as good as Lucas is, like, that's not going to work at this level. And it just took us a while to get him out of the pattern. Lucas's superpowers are how he squares the club on the way down. It's remarkable. And I told him very early on that that's the one thing we're not going to change. That's your superpower. That's what makes you you. I don't think I changed his golf swing. I think I got him out of a pattern that was, not working well for him at the time, and just tried to give him back his golf swing, because it's really good. And we have our little playbook, our little checks of things that we go through, our little feels, and then I really pay attention when anything's outside of that playbook. If he says something that, that we haven't talked about in 3.5 years, I go, wow, well, that's different, and then my ears perk up and I listen even harder. Because those are the things that make a relationship, in my opinion, especially at this level, really good. Is you got to listen really well to what these guys are talking and these girls are talking about, because they may not be able to verbalize it the way we can as coaches, but you need to be able to take their language and sift through it a little bit, figure out what their understanding of it is, and then give it back to them. I give. Lucas and I'll be in the bay, and we'll be on force plates or doing something in 3D, and I'll give Lucas kind of the big version of something, and then I let him mess around for 20 minutes, hitting balls, and we're talking about college football or something. And then he comes back to me and says, okay, so I heard this, and this is what I've been doing. Is that what you want? And it'll 9 times out of 10, it's perfect. So I think giving the player the leeway, good players can handle information if you allow them to sift through it. Everybody wants it to be super easy, but I think it's best if you can create a concept around something, and then everybody kind of pulls what they need out of it to get to the same end goal.
Awesome. Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. And thank you, Jason. This is a bit of a follow-on to Dunnigan's question. What kind of diagnostic tools do you commonly use with golfers of any ability, really?
Yeah, so great question, Eric. Like if you count the TPI screen, obviously it's kind of a diagnostic tool, and then the technology stuff, I'll have a launch monitor. and I kind of look at like in an initial lesson, let's just, say eliminate left, just whatever it was. I hate hitting pulls. I want to draw it and I hate hitting pulls. All right. So I'll have them on a force plate. I'll have the 3D running. I'll have the TrackMan running. And I'm kind of searching for which piece of technology might be the star of the lesson. It's all running and there's all kinds of information flashing, but I'm trying to kind of look at the technology and go, oh, is his pressure trace shifting back and the club's passing and that's why it's going left? Oh, wow. The force plate might be the star of the show, or, there's something going on in 3D and I go, wow, let's change that number. That's the star of the show. Or the launch monitor itself, it becomes the star of the show. So while all of that may be running, there's only one star in a lesson. And then the rest of it, I'm kind of using that, like, hey, maybe it was something in their setup and blah, 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 blah. And you go back and show them how many good things they actually changed from working on that one thing that you gave them. I think that's a great way to look at it. Oh, your kinematic sequence is now in order. Oh, wow, we weren't even working on that. Yeah, I know, but now it's so much better because of this. And, I hope, well, I think this will probably go on my gravestone at some point. Nobody gets worse from setting up better, and do you do the ordinary things extraordinarily well? Like I'm on that constantly about players because there's so much you can get for free when you really can coach in those two areas, which are synonymous with each other. There's amazing how many things you can get for free when you set somebody up a little bit better and you get their hands on the club a little better and their left hip gets higher than their right and their rib cage gets a little left and their arm structure gets a little better. Man, the path goes from 5 left to 1 left in 4 swings, and that's what I mean by getting stuff for free. So yeah, and then I like to also like really look into like, I have these little games I play. I'm sure some of y'all do as well, like with our member lessons is what type of lesson is this going to be? So some lessons are a technical lesson of some sort, we're all teaching that way in some way, shape or form. And then some lessons are a pure intent lesson. Like the intent of the player doesn't match the shot shape they want to hit. So that becomes all about changing the intent. All right. And then you've got a tactical lesson, how are they actually treating situations, so from a strategic standpoint or a tactical intelligence standpoint, maybe it's not a lesson at all. And I'll give you some examples of those couple. So let's go to the intent lesson. So I had a player a couple of years ago, member come in and he's hitting pulls and cuts. Okay. And the paths, 5 left, 6 left, 4.5 left, whatever, face is closed and the ball's cutting. And I said, what shot shape would you like to hit? Man, I'd really like to hit a draw. Like that'd be the greatest thing ever. And I said, well, where would a draw start in relation to the target? And he said, well, to the right. I said, perfect. And I just flashed one launch monitor number up there and it was launch direction. I said, well, and he came in going, I want to be consistent. All right, that was the comment. That's the one we all get. That's why I hate that word so much. And I said, you are remarkably consistent. Your path is always left and your face is always closed to the target. Like you're remarkably consistent already. You're just not consistent in the way that you want it to go. So we started down this journey and I'd do it in 6s. So I had given him 6 balls to hit, collected the launch monitor data, and then said, what do we want to do? And he says, I'd love to hit a draw. I said, great, where would a draw start? And he said, right of target, threw one number up there, launch direction, gave him 6 balls. Okay. And I said, all right, I'm going to be here to help you, but how many of these 6 balls do you think you could succeed at launching to the right of the target? And he said 3. And I was like, yeah, it's a great challenge point. I'm with you on 3, our first 6 balls. So we want a challenge point here where he's got to work to get it, but it's not too easy, but not too hard. So he said 3. We'll end up getting 4 balls that launch to the right. Now I don't have the number up there, but I'm peeking at the club path number. All right. And the club path is already changing. Okay. I said, now, like that was only 6 balls and we're rocking and rolling here. I said, how many balls of the next 6 do you think you can get to start right and curve left? And so I threw curve up there, spin axis up there. All right. And next thing you know, he hits 3 draws, like legit start right, curve left draws. All right. We've hit 12 golf balls. He's changed his path to a positive number and he's hit 3 functional draws and the other 3 weren't bad golf shots. I have not done anything in his golf swing. Okay. I may have squared his club face up and made sure his grip was on there, but like I had done nothing but change his intent of what he's trying to do. In 18 golf balls, the next 6, the lesson was over. Now, in the real world, if you paint houses or roof houses and you can get the job done faster than everybody else, you get paid more and you get to leave early. In our world, we don't get to do that, you know? So I had to kind of hang out for a little while and talk about hitting short shots or something, you know, because we had done it, changed the intent and hit better functional golf shots in 18 golf balls. That's what I call an intent lesson. Then I'll give you like a tactical intelligence lesson. So I have a short game little test that I give players. I think I got it mostly off of Matt Wilson and Corey Lundberg years ago. But so I had a member come in and say he wanted help with a short game. And I said, okay, great. We're going to hit 9 shots. I just need to watch you in the wild. I handed him a chipping disc and I dropped a golf ball in different places for 9 different shots. And I said, these are the only 2 things you need to do for me. I said, you need to tell me where you're going to land it and place a chipping disc out there where our landing spot's going to be. And I need you to announce to me before you hit the shot, whether your intent's to hit a lower than normal shot, a normal trajectory shot, or a higher than normal trajectory shot. He said, great. So I dropped balls in 9 different spots. Okay. I swear to you, this guy's probably a 12 handicap. All right. His worst shot out of the 9 was 8 feet. Worst shot out of the 9. And I looked at him and I said, I thought you had trouble with your short game. He said, I've just never thought of it the way you set the drill up, set the test up. Just never thought of it that way. And so boom, lessons over. It's like that's a tactical, like we're our default, all right, is we're always defaulting to changing someone's technique. All right. And that obviously has to be done in situations, but I'm always looking for the outliers in a day. I'm looking for those intent lessons. I'm looking for those tactical lessons. I'm looking for those strategy moments. I'm looking for any of those because it's hard to teach technique all day. All right. And it doesn't work half the time. Okay. So we're dealing with a lot of players that don't practice that much and can't remember what happened in the last golf lesson anyway. So I like looking for those things, and I would encourage you all to do the same.
Coach Z, go for it.
Thanks, Jason. How you doing, man?
I'm good, David. How are you, buddy?
Good. I would love for you to speak a little bit about like the structure of Jupiter Performance. Like, how many instructors do you have? How often are you meeting with them to kind of review things, go over topics, just the overall structure that you have in place at Jupe?
Okay. Yeah. So the big thing, I'm in year 7 now of Jupiter Hills, and big part of, I think what got me the job was I coming from that coaching kind of mindset, like I wanted to create a culture at Jupiter Hills. I wanted to create this egoless ecosystem where everybody that worked for me was a star, just as much of a star as I was as the director of instruction. I wanted to like hire people that were curious. Like I have 2 instructors right now that had never given a golf lesson before they came to work at Jupiter Hills. And they are amazing instructors now because I hired curious people. If you're curious and you've got a great attitude about it, I feel like I can make you a pretty decent instructor from hanging out with me or hanging out with Brad Faxon when he was working with us, or Lance Gill, or any of the people that we've had in there. I feel like we can put you in a position to succeed if you're curious and you've got a great personality. So, Morgan and Ben are my 2 assistants, and they would look. Jupiter Hills runs probably better now when I'm not there, but I wouldn't be able to travel on tour. I wouldn't be able to do speaking engagements if I didn't have great people at home. So they do a marvelous job. I have Neil Mark, who's an incredible club fitter and builder. I have Chase Garris, who is our director of performance, handles all of our golf fitness needs, and we're actually bringing on another golf fitness professional very soon, because in a first staff meeting of the year, I said, Chase, how's your book looking? And he said, I'm booked for the year. So we've created a culture where the golf fitness side of it is so important to some of our members that now one performance person is not enough, and we have to go find a second. And I feel like, whenever you're working in atmosphere like a club, one of your jobs can be is like to create a problem that the club has to help you solve. That's how you get technology. That's how you hire more staff. That's how you get things through a board, is that if you create a really good problem, like Chase is now too busy, then the club's got to help you solve that. And if you're creating a culture and you're really good about like spreading the word of that culture, what you are, what you're trying to accomplish, then it becomes very easy. Because when I walked into my first interview, I said I was going to do everything we've done at Jupiter Hills. I said I was going to create a fitness situation. I said I was going to create a performance situation. I said I was going to train staff well. I said I was going to hire well. And so when you say that in your initial interview and you keep doing it, you get to actually flip the script for once and hold a club accountable. Like I get to hold Jupiter Hills accountable to what I said in that interview, because that's what I told them I was going to do. And that's why I came, because they said that's what they wanted. As far as meeting with staff, Eric, like we have, so I have a couple of kind of outside staff people that are, which we have an incredible situation at Jupiter Hills, because we have assistant golf pros from some places up north, you know, that get to come down in the winter to us. And so we've got this incredible group of outside service staff, and every season, one or two of them think they want to go down the teaching road. So they're encouraged actually to take video of their friends or members or anything, put them in Coach Now. And then we have some little meetings throughout the month where they bring them in, we throw them on the big screen, and I kind of show them how I'd look at the golf swing. And then they tell me what they think of it. And we just kind of share ideas, and I try to arm them with the opportunity to you know, learn from that in a way to be able to analyze, you know, what's the symptoms and what's the actual disease of what you're seeing. And so we do that quite a lot with just random swings and things. And then we also have what's called Jupiter Hills University, where we bring in all of the outside staff, which, you know, is about 25. And they go through Jupiter Hills University. They learn, you know, what we do down at the Performance Center, how we do it, kind of what our core values are, what our culture's like, how we run things. And I actually kind of open that up now. And now Morgan and Ben actually run that while I actually sit in the audience. Because a big part of what I want you to do if you come to work for me is I want you to learn a lot of things. And one of those would be how to speak in front of your peers. So, you know, it's pretty easy to stand up in a ladies' clinic when none of the ladies know anything about what's going on. It's different when you're standing in front of a bunch of golf pros. And so you actually I want to put them in positions where they get used to speaking in front of their peers.
Awesome. Joe submitted a question via chat. How do you create a feel with the student?
I don't think it's your job to create a feel. I think it's your job to introduce a concept, introduce a goal, and then like Lucas and I, when we got here the other night, we were talking about eating, and he said, "I feel like Thai," and I said, "I feel like Indian tonight." You know, like it's like there was, you know, we ended up eating Thai, and it was awesome. So it's like I don't, you know, trying to create a feel. I don't think is your actual job. I think it's the player's job to be into it enough and intuitive enough that they create their own feel out of what you've established as the concept. And because if I say I need the golf ball to start right at target, well, my feel might be that my left arm stays higher than my right, and the other player's feel might be that the heel beats the toe to the ball. Like those are different feels accomplishing the same thing. So I think when you can put players, I know I've done this a lot recently with Golf Forever. Like if it's a pivot situation and I ask them to do something with Golf Forever and some bands or something, it's amazing what they will come up with on their own that I couldn't have said. And I always use the term that your words are better than mine. I might say some really cool stuff in a golf lesson that sounds awesome. And going back to my comment to John earlier, it's like, man, I've said some really cool stuff in a golf lesson that never worked. So it's like it, you know, sounded cool, but it wasn't the right cueing. It was mostly internal, and it sounded really cool. And the player went, "Yeah, let's do that," and it never worked. Okay, so I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves sometimes as teachers and coaches to put our capes on and save the day. and it's really not our job. We're guides on this journey, and we need to guide the student into figuring it out on their own in some ways. And if we don't do that, then they're not going to take any ownership of it. It's not going to be theirs. It's going to be ours. They're going to borrow it, and they're never going to own it.
Derek, you're up. Derek, you might be on mute. Okay, we'll come back to Derek. Jack submitted a question. Do you document and follow?
Derek was not asking a question. I'm with him right now.
Oh, okay, perfect. I'll lower his hand. Thank you. Do you document and follow up each lesson, notes or video with each student? And do you like a playbook with each student, like you mentioned with Lucas?
Yes. So I've gone round and round, to be honest, with the, documentation of certain things. It's like if you can't remember it, maybe I'm not charging you enough, kind of thing. It's like you called me, you wanted my help, but I'm supposed to send all the videos and do all those types of things. So I've gone round and round with that. I do use Coach Now quite a bit with our players because it's easy, and I really enjoy. Like in the very beginning, I'll be outside with a player. We're talking about things and where we're going, and I'm just videoing on my phone with Coach Now. And then we come inside. I hate being in the bay anytime I don't have to be in the bay, but I do have a 100-inch monitor in there. So I love going in the bay and then just screen mirroring my phone up to the 100-inch monitor. And I'll just click on, after I've analyzed, kind of gone through kind of what I want to see, I just click the microphone button on, and then we talk through it while I draw some lines or talk about concepts and what we're going to try to get accomplished here. And I've already got the beginning of the lesson in their Coach Now before we hit another golf ball. So I think that's a great way of doing it. Coach Now's been around for a while and a great company with Golf Genius. So I think that's a huge way of starting that. And then at the end of the lesson, kind of recapping everything. And I'll usually video them telling me what the lesson was about, what they took from it in their own words. And then boom, I record that, drop it in Coach Now. Now I've got the befores, now I've got the after, I've got their feels, them talking to themselves about what we did in the golf lesson instead of me actually doing it. For some reason, I can't remember to pick up milk on the way home if my wife asked me to do it, but I remember everything I ever do in a golf lesson, mainly because it's within my own kind of playbook and style. And so a guy can come in who I haven't seen in 2 seasons, and I remember exactly what we worked on 2 seasons ago. He has no idea he was even there 2 seasons ago. So yes, and then I look for the playbook stuff is important to me. It's kind of how I categorize anything with any player. And going back to the whiteboard, we take a lot of pictures of the whiteboard because we write the goal up there. What's our goal for the day, and then we write the ways that we got there. And the way my brain kind of works in a golf lesson is that whatever I write down first is always the most important. And then it kind of goes, if I write 3 things on them for them to take out of the lesson, number 1's always the most important. Number 2 is the second most important. And you can't do 3 if you haven't done 1 and 2. So I'm trying to make sure they understand that. And that's just my way of like collecting my own thoughts. So even if like it's a good player and all the technology's running and I'm really kind of sifting through everything, I go right to the whiteboard as I'm going, and there's some codes that I have, RS, reverse spine, and too much lateral. I have these little codes that I just write because I want to get right to the problem, and kind of like I'm certainly no Rain Man with any of that. So I need to kind of write it down and then kind of sift through it and go backwards and figure out, what's the actual disease here, and has this player been trying to treat the symptoms? And then if they treat the symptoms, they've never treated the disease, and that's why it's never worked. And there's the rabbit hole they went down. And how did their golf swing get to this point? Oh, their golf swing got to this point because of A. And A caused B and C. So why are we going to worry about B and C? We need to go to A first. And so that's kind of how I go through those things. And then I try to, incorporate that back into the player in the simplest form I can.
Jennifer.
All right. Jason, thanks for your time. Just a quick question. I guess one kind of talking about the growth as an instructor, as a golf coach. So one was kind of like a past question, then maybe kind of current. So in the past, maybe what other golf instructors, like who's influenced you the most, like in your teaching philosophy, or have you, to where you've gotten today, like other past instructors? And then now today you're in a mentor role, but how do you still kind of further yourself aside from the golf lessons you give? Because I feel obviously with every golf lesson you give, you can grow as an instructor, but what other type of education or what else do you do to kind of better yourself as a golf coach?
That's great stuff, Jennifer. Thanks for asking that. So yeah, I feel like I kind of grew up in this golden age of, at least in my opinion, of like how things were done. So, I remember, when video came out, I hate to say it, 54 years old, like I remember when, people were wheeling big JC video carts out onto the range. And so video was a big thing. I remember buying my first camcorder and going in an office with a grease pencil and drawing the plane lines on the television. So and then, there were great swingers of the club. It was Norman, it was Davis Love, it was Nick Price, it was Faldo. Like, so it was, that world where golf instruction was coming off of the range and onto television or onto a PGA Tour range. And it was becoming, a thing, a business, so to speak. And remember thinking that if we just made everybody's backswing look like Nick Price's or Nick Faldo's, that everybody would play better. The stupidity of that, but at the time that's what you did. That's all we knew. The golf club toe up on the toe line and all these little things position oriented. So I'm glad I went through that stupidity, so to speak, in some ways. All right. And then I go back sometimes now and I go, well, old school golf stuff still works. The stuff we knew back then actually still works and helps people now. So it wasn't terrible. We just didn't know any better either at the time. I never like shadowing people in my growth, especially in Eastern North Carolina. Like, it was never a big thing. I wished it was. I wished I would have done more of that. It probably wouldn't have taken me as long to get decent at my craft, but so I think the shadowing stuff is huge, and we welcome, like, I have at least two shadowers a week during the season. People are constantly asking to come down and see what we do, and I'm always happy to have them. I had a guy that I took some golf lessons from very early on named Ron Anderson. He was in New Bern, North Carolina. He was a great instructor. Just had some really cool things he said, some stuff that I still use today. And I just thought he was a cool guy. I like to hang out with him, and he helped me with my golf game, and he helped me understand some things. And then of course you kind of fast forward down the road, and Jack Lumpkin became a huge mentor to me, and I spent a lot of time with Jack while I was at Sea Island. Todd Anderson was great to me. Just the whole team, Mike Shannon, Gail Peterson, that whole team at Sea Island kind of framed up the end of it. Was like I knew kind of what I was doing as a teacher and a coach, but it was almost like I needed to go to finishing school. And I think when I got to Sea Island, I went to finishing school, and that really gave me some of the confidence to get where we've gotten now. And thank you for calling me a mentor. It's probably the highest compliment I can get at this point, because it means a lot to me to pass on the things that I can pass on, because I don't want coaches to have to do it the hard way. I want them to do hard work, but I don't want them to do it the hard way. And I'd like to see them get better faster. And so that's kind of what I put into that. And that's why I'm happy to share stuff with you guys on this, and honored that you'd ask.
Nick, go for it.
Jason, always great to hear from you and see you. Hope all's well, and good luck at Pebble this week. So I'm sure you deal with golfers and their trends. It seems like in golf instruction and golf coaching, there's a bunch of trends, and a lot of people might get sucked into that, type of teaching or whatever it is. How do you navigate yourself and stay in your lane and kind of coach and teach what you believe in, but also how do you deal with players that you teach that come up to you and say, maybe I should be trying the next best thing or whatever that is?
Yeah. Good to see you, Nick. And that was a great question as well. Like, I think let me kind of start, and I need to finish answering Jennifer's question, because I didn't answer the end of it. And I'll kind of combine the start of your answer and the end of what I should have said to Jennifer. But I to be honest with you, I'm trying really hard personally to understand that while I'm very fortunate to be able to coach at the highest level, that it doesn't define me as a person. So Jennifer asked, what am I doing education to keep I'm constantly learning. I talk to a lot of guys out here. I have a lot of good friends that coach out here, and we're sharing ideas and things all the time, but it's not normally anymore the kind of golf technique stuff. It's a little bit more about the coaching aspect and talking with players in a different light. And then I'm actually trying to do that with myself. It's like, it's very easy to, for if you get the opportunity to coach at a really high level, for that to define you as a person and for you to let that happen. And I'm trying really hard that if all my players walked away from me tomorrow, that I'm still just the same Jason Bale. That this cannot be the end all be all. I'm still going to be a good golf coach. I'm still going to go to work every day trying to make people better. I don't want to ever, say that if this defines me at all, if that makes sense. So when it comes to your question, Nick, like the thinking to stay in your lane, I think is a kind of a great way of saying it. But then I think you got to blur the lane a little bit with the human element of it. Like I got word last year that somebody was looking to bring me on board or something. It was a really good player. And I thought to myself, because I went through a situation that I probably shouldn't have put myself in. And I was like, you know what? The big thing here is like, I'm not sure personality wise, I can be successful with that player. I'd love to coach him because where they rank in the world, but I'm not sure that I can be successful because of the personality part of it. And I went through that with a player that I probably should not have taken on, not because he's a bad person or anything, just because of a cultural situation or a personality situation. And so I think it's real important, like, to figure out who you can be successful with, and kind of stay in that lane a little bit. And that's very hard to do in the beginning. In the very beginning, if you had any kind of card in your wallet, I was willing to coach you at this, and I think any of us would, right? And now at this point, it's like my brand is more important than to put it in a situation where it could fail. I'm always willing to help people and do anything I can, but I don't know that I think trying to grow personally through this is a big part of it. To who can you be successful with? Who do you want to spend time with? What are your common goals and things like that? I think is really important. I take a lot of pride in a couple of things out here. Number one, for all but one of my players, I coach the entire game to. So I coach their putting, their short game, and their full swing. All right. And Christian Bezadenhout's the only one I don't coach chipping to. He's got Gabe. And so but every one of my players, I coach the entire game to. If you look across the board at everybody I coach, nobody swings the same. There's no Jason Bale fingerprint across the board. You couldn't look at my guys and girls and go, Jessica Korda doesn't swing like Lucas Glover, okay? And Christian doesn't swing like Peter Uihlein. And Bud Cauley doesn't swing like Ryan Gerard, and Hayden Buckley doesn't swing like Austin Hitt. Like, there's no fingerprint. And I'm proud of that because they're individuals. They've got different bodies. They've got different patterns that were built in when they were junior golfers. And so I'm proud of the fact that I can coach at the highest level and coach all elements of the game. I'm proud of the fact that if you walked across the range, you can't pick my players out because there's no method to any of it. It's their own. And I try really hard to work within their own ecosystem to make them successful, because it's stupid for me to make Jessica Korda swing like Lucas Glover. Dumb.
Jason, I'm curious, how does your adoption process work for new technology? Whether it be stuff you have had in your stable now for a couple of years, or new things like AI?
Yeah, so I usually I'm the guy that can teach with tech, but barely knows how to turn it on. So I'm always going to smarter people than I am about like I don't know how any of it actually works. I know, TrackMan's a radar and Foresight's a camera and stuff, but I don't know how any of that works. I just want it to be correct. So I usually call on friends and mentors of people that are more techie than I am, to tell me, what they think is best as far as for what they've seen. And I do a lot of research. I'm very lucky that Jupiter Hills buys me anything I want. I need to make sure I'm going to use it and it's best for the club. So I do a lot of research and I call a lot of friends and ask their opinion, especially in the 3D world, especially in the launch monitor world. And then I just try to use the tools for good, not for evil. It's very easy to go down rabbit holes where you get a new piece of technology and you try it on everybody. And the next thing you know, you've made a mess of golf lessons because you just were dying to use this technology. So that's what I mean by using it for evil instead of for good. Technology should make your job way easier. It shouldn't make it harder, and it should make the lesson harder. It should make the lesson way easier, or you're not using it correctly.
Any other questions? Go for it, John.
Jason, you are maybe one of the best in our business about dealing with a super hyper elite level player and then dealing with a club member. And are those two very different animals, and how do you handle each segment?
Well, thank you, John, for saying that. It means a lot. Yeah, I kind of like the fact that that's what I do. There aren't many of us out here that are still, the director of instruction at a private club. John Scott Rattan does a great job out here and still goes back to Congressional, and I try to do a good job out here, and I still go back to Jupiter Hills and coach people just like y'all do. And I think that's kind of cool. I kind of like it that way. And I think I think it makes us talking to each other right here a little more authentic, because I'm doing the same thing you guys are doing most of the time as well. I just get to coach at the highest level as my part-time job kind of thing. So I actually, from a mindset standpoint, let's just call it a lens. I don't look at other than the fact that these people that I'm coaching this week pay their mortgage, by their score. And, Mr. Johnson, the 15 handicap at the club, doesn't pay his mortgage by his score. Obviously, that's a big difference. But from a lens standpoint of like what they're trying to accomplish, what do they want the golf ball to do? And what are they trying to accomplish from a ball flight standpoint? I don't really look at it any different. The ball doesn't know whether Lucas is hitting it or whether Mr. Johnson's hitting it. It knows how fast it comes off. It knows how much it curves. It knows how solid it was hit. But if it's trying to make the ball do the same thing, then I'm not going to coach the player at home much differently than I would one of the better players in the world, just because we're coaching a golf ball. To me, I'm starting out with, can I affect a change in how the ball flies? And then what are the play calls I'm going to do that? And you got to be careful whenever you're coaching really high level players, because you better be damn sure your play calls are good. Because like Mr. Johnson sometimes can't do what you're asking him to do early on, but the elite players can do it in 3 swings. So you better make sure it was a really good play call before you tell them to do it. And so I think I like the challenge of bouncing back and forth, but also there's not a tour player lesson and a member lesson as far as the lens I look at it through. Certainly the language is a little bit different and the expectation level is a little bit different, but the actual lens I look through isn't really that different.
So I kind of teed that one up for you, because one of the great cues of all time that you gave Lucas was super, super technical, spit in your divot. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So when we were shameful to admit, because I stopped spitting, but I still borrow one off of him every now and then. But when there was too much side bend going through the golf ball and we were kind of a little bit under it, I made that cue up of, getting the chest more forward and being able to spit in the middle of your divot at impact. And that was one of our fun ones there when we were going through being a little too far under it. It resonated to two Carolina boys pretty easily.
Jennifer, go ahead.
All right, changing topics. I'm going to go to parents. How do you handle, what if the goals of, say, a junior, like a high school student, don't align with a parent? Meaning, maybe the kid maybe likes golf, but, they have the potential to play in college, but they don't know if that's the path they want to go. But yet the parents kind of push on lessons, do this, let's practice, get better. So if they don't quite align, and part of it's, maybe the junior doesn't know what they want to, but how do you kind of handle the different alignment between parent and child?
Good stuff. So I do this with juniors. I bring in the parents or the parent that brought them and the junior, and we sit in my office in the very beginning of anything. And I talk to the junior in front of the parent, and I ask the junior, say, hey, what's your goals with golf? Like, what are we trying to get here? What would you like my help with? And let's just say it's the kid that says, hey, I want to play on PGA Tour. And I go, great, that's awesome. Seems like a wonderful goal. But that goal is way out there. And then I borrow a line from Matt Kakara, who's a sports psychologist guy who I've worked with in the past and a really good friend. And I think this is a great line that he would not mind me sharing with y'all because he's a great sharer. If you ask a kid like that, when do you think, and those of you who are, my age or older, if you ask a kid, when do you think you should play the best golf of your life? Okay, at what age? All right. What age do you think most players 14-year-olds that I ask that question to, what age do you think they give me? They say 24. Okay. Now, if you fast forward when I was 15 or 16 and getting into the game, if you asked me that, I would have said 32 to 36, because that's when Davis Love and Freddie Couples and Greg Norman and Nick Price and Nick Faldo were all playing their best golf. And so when you frame it up that way and they say 24 and you go, what are you going to do when you're 28 if you've already played the best golf of your life? So I think framing it up like what this type of improvement journey is. And so I'm always talking to the player in this situation. If the parent interjects, I turn to them and say, okay, here's what's happening here. So Little Johnny, you are now the CEO of Little Johnny Golfing Incorporated. All right. And Mr. Johnson over here, you are the CFO of that. That means you pay. All right. And I work for Johnny and you pay me, but it's Johnny's goals. All right. And we're going to write down Johnny's goals and we're going to go after it. We're going to hold Johnny accountable to the goals because they're his, they're not ours. And you're going to write the checks and I'm going to do the coaching, and that's how it's got to work. And I kind of frame it up that way to empower the kid that you're the CEO of a company and we work for you because we're working to help you achieve your goals. And I think that's a big part of is in front of the parent, empowering the child and then saying, hey, through this process, there's going to be some big decisions and there's going to be some times when you may not want to practice. And if you're going to play the PGA Tour, how about we write down all the things you would need to do before you played the PGA Tour? Starting with, you'd probably have to make your high school golf team, so you probably would have to, be really good from 8 feet and in with your putter. All right. You'd probably have to be tactically intelligent. You'd probably have to manage your emotions really well. You'd probably have to create really good practice habits. You'd probably have to keep your clubs clean and keep your grades up. Right. These would, because the CFO can stop paying at any time if your grades go down. So if you could create this empowering situation with a kid and wow, I'm in charge of all of this. I think that's a cool way to diffuse the parent. And when the parent comes back to you and says, Johnny's not practicing, not my job. That's Johnny's job. It's not your job either. They're Johnny's goals. They're not our goals. And if Johnny decides, and I think giving them the ability to switch those goals during it is huge too. Johnny said, okay, he wanted to play the PGA Tour. Then Johnny got a car and a girlfriend, and the world changed. Okay. And now he just says, I just like to win the club championship at my home club when I'm 25 years old. That's fine. Johnny gets the right to change the goals. And so that's okay. But Johnny has to tell you he changed the goals.
I like all those analogies. And I just laugh when you say, when do you think you're going to play your best golf? Now that we're like in upper age, I'm over 50 myself. It's like, I hope my best golf is yet to come.
Yeah. I'm still looking for it too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We've got about 5 minutes left. Last call for questions.
Well, Jason, I want you to hire me to come down there so I can get the heck out of Pennsylvania for winter. For God's sake. You ought to live up here, man.
You are welcome anytime. Pal.
Terrible.
Meg, go ahead.
How about the parents that are afraid to let their kids fail? What do you say to them?
Oh man. I think that's so good, Meg, that you brought that up. Like, and even at this level, like I had this conversation with a top 70 player in the world not too long ago, is that these times when we absolutely positively 100% need these down moments. You can call them failures if you want, or you can just call them learning moments. Is that, we have a saying, there's only two things that are going to happen in any situation. You either win or you learn. You never lose. And we're winning sometimes and we're learning the other times. And if you can frame it up that way, but no player, no high level anything has ever just gone like this and gotten to the pinnacle of anything. There are losses along the way that are learning moments, and they are vital and necessary in order. And we all know in today's day and age, we're way too protective and we're way too hope we don't fail and nobody's feelings get hurt type of things. But there's not a high performer in any walk of life who hadn't had their feelings hurt. And the way they reacted from getting their feelings hurt is actually what helped make them better. If they reacted with grit, which I think is a word that needs to be put back into our lexicon, like grit, determination, these types of things, this pathway to high performance. If you're going to high perform at anything, you're going to have to fail, and those things need to be embraced, not avoided. You've got to embrace those moments because it is a chance to get better every time it happens. And this player that I had this conversation with, it was like, dude, if we're going to make Ryder Cup teams, we had to do this. If we're gonna win a major championship, we had to do this. So look at it like we had to do it. We got it over with. Move on to the next one.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Meg.
Any other questions? Go for it, Dave.
Sorry, guys. This is a selfish question. This is actually for Dave McNabb more than for me. In your performance center, you have all those shafts on the wall. Do you know the company that makes that little holder for all those shafts?
Yeah, my club tech would, and I'm happy to get that to you. So just text me and I'll get it to you. Yeah,
Beautiful.
Happy to.
Thank you.
Matt, if there's no more questions, I'd like to close it down with one kind of little rant, if it's okay with you.
Of course, be my guest.
So like as a profession, I was obviously very proud to be selected as the National Teacher and Coach of the Year last year. One of the biggest parts of that for me, honors for me, is to advocate for our profession. Now that they gave it to me, as far as I know, they're not allowed to take it back. So I get to start saying stuff, that I've always wanted to say, in rooms and places where I've always wanted to say it. And I want you all to know that I'll be advocating from a compensation standpoint, from a notoriety standpoint, from any standpoint. The people that teach and coach this game are the lifeblood of it. And I would encourage all of you to go to work every day with that inside of you. And I will encourage you that if you ever run into any situation where you need my help in a boardroom, in a membership meeting, and the contract negotiation, I will be happy to stand beside you and bang the desk for you. And I think there are ways in which you can help yourself in those situations. We document everything that happens at the Performance Center, how many people visit it, how many golf lessons we give. We document everything. And there's been a growth for 7 years of what we do. And so that's we've even started to go so far as how many times does Jupiter Hills get mentioned in a national spotlight? So I'm going through a contract negotiation type of thing where the club would like to kind of sew me up for good. I'd like to do that. And they have seen the value in having my name said on CBS Sports on a Sunday. They've seen the value in having a magazine article or whatever. I would encourage you all to do those types of things as well, as many places as you can do them, because we need to spread the word of what you mean to your club or your facility by having you there. There's a value to having you there. Clubs are now realizing that if they try to replace a John Dunnigan, or they try to replace a Nick Icona, or they try to replace a Jason Bailey, it's going to cost them a lot of damn money to replace me. They may as well just pay it to me. And so those are the types of things we can do, and they're starting to understand that. So being a big part of, being a person in your community that spreads the word of coaching golf, being a person that spreads the PGA, being active in your section, being a part of every solution, not a part of any problems, is a big part of what I think makes us shine out. And I just wanted you all to know that I will be advocating for you and be standing beside you any chance that you need me.
Thank you very much. That's wonderful, JB. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, Jason, thank you so much for your time and getting up early with us this morning. I thought this was fantastic.
Good. Thank you guys for having me. I was honored.
All right.
Thank you.
Good luck this week.
Good
You got
luck
it.
this week. Go get them.
Appreciate it.
See you soon.
See you.
Thanks, Chase.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it.